Welcome to another episode of Fluently Speaking with your host, Rod Fluellen. There is not a right or wrong answer, but in this episode, I want to pose a question. In terms of obtaining success, is it more important to have action and movement, or is it more important to have belief? For those of you who may think that having action and movement is more important, you truly have 7 reasons to think that. Because it is important to have action or movement when becoming successful, because success doesn't come from ideas alone. It comes from execution. Here are a few other reasons why action matters so much. Ideas mean nothing without action. Everyone has goals and dreams, but only those who take consistent action turn them into reality. Movement turns vision into progress. Action builds momentum. Every small step forward creates energy and confidence. The more you move, the easier it becomes to keep going. Momentum fuels motivation. You learn by doing. Real growth happens through experience. Action allows you to make mistakes, adjust, and get better. Something that can't happen if you stay still. Opportunities come from movement. When you're active, you're networking, you're learning, you're trying. You open yourself up to new people, places, and chances that wouldn't appear if you were doing nothing. Consistency beats perfection. Success rarely comes from a single big move. Instead, it is the result of many small, consistent actions over time. Action builds confidence. Each step forward proves to you that you're capable. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. In short, motion creates result. Stillness keeps you stuck. Success is not a wanting game, it's a moving game. But now I want to tell you a true story that led me to pose this very important question. There was a young man who struggled in school, and because it was difficult for him, he decided not to put forth much effort. So because of that, he was a D average student. And during his senior year, it came time for him to take the SAT test. And after going back and forth with his mom about taking the SAT test, his mom convinced him to take it. But before taking the test, he had a conversation with his mom. And during that conversation, he told his mom, "Mom, I'm not very smart, as you can see. I am a D average student. My teachers don't really believe in me, and I really don't believe in my abilities to learn either." His mom responded back by saying, "Well, just take the test, just try." So the student took the SAT, and when he got his scores back, he scored a 1480 out of 1600. By the results, his mom asked, "Did you cheat? Like you must have cheated." And he replied, "No, I didn't cheat." And still shocked, she replied, "No, son, you're not that smart. I see your grades. I see what you make on a report card." So the mom said, "I am so confused. How did you make a 1480, but yet you're making D's? Like I don't understand what's going on." The student hesitated and responded by saying, "Mom, I guess I am pretty smart." The next day he went to school, and when he got to school, his teacher said, "Man, you made a 1480? Maybe you are pretty smart." His friend said, "Man, you made a 1480? Maybe you are pretty smart. Maybe you are not just applying yourself. Maybe you are smarter than what you thought you were. You made a 1480 out of 1600. So you have to be more intelligent than what you thought." So because he started believing and holding dear to the idea that he is smart, he began to study more. He began to take class more seriously. He began to take notes. He began to go home and prepare himself for the test. He began to act like and believe that he was indeed pretty smart. And just because it may take him longer to get a concept doesn't mean he isn't smart. It just means he needs more time. So once he began to do that, he went from making D's to making A's and B's. But because his GPA was already low, it took him a while to build it up, and thus he had to go to junior college for the first 2 years. He then transferred to an Ivy League school. After graduating from the Ivy League school, he went on to become a multi-million-dollar man with a magazine company. Years later, he received a letter in the mail from a company that reviews SAT results. And he opened the letter, and to his surprise, the letter said, "We regret to inform you that we gave you the wrong test scores. You didn't score a 1480, you scored a 740 out of 1600. And he called his mom and told his mom. He then called his friends and told his friends. And everyone was confused. Like, you scored a 740. How did you go from a D student to graduating from an Ivy League to now becoming a multimillionaire if you really wasn't that smart? Like, what happened? Like, what changed? See, he started to believe like a 1480. He started to act like a 1480. He started to study like a 1480. What you believe about yourself is what you will become. He really didn't have the knowledge to get a 1480 and wasn't applying himself. But when he started believing like he was a 1480, he started applying himself and it changed his entire life. So it's not what you know, it's what you believe. So again, I ask, what's more important, to have action or movement or to have belief? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, thanks for tuning in. See you next week.